Hello everyone, my name is Lanso90 and welcome to a tutorial series for Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. This is going to cover some somewhat basic stuff, like this is episode 0, it's just going to be over how to install the game, like what version to use, because there's a lot of versions of it. So if you're just looking for advanced tips and stuff, I'd just watch one of my Let's Plays, if you know already how to play the game and stuff. This is going to assume that you're a completely new player. So the first thing we should talk about is there's a lot of different versions of the game. This is why we're not just starting at the title screen of the game. There's Windows version, there's Linux version, and then inside of those there's also console and graphical versions. And then there are stable and experimental versions of those same things. So Windows and Linux, those are pretty obvious what those mean. You should know what operating system you're running. But then the next decision is you want the console or graphical build. So the console build just means it's only in ASCII characters. Just, text is what the game's based on. Or you can use the tile set version or the graphical version, which has a tile set. But that's up to you. I prefer the console version. And I'm also going to demonstrate it through the console version here. But the base game remains the same, so it doesn't matter too much. So then you have to decide between the stable version and experimental version. The stable version, for this particular time, is from quite a while ago. I think it is still this 0.0a version, Kaufman. It was released the third month of this year, January, February, March. So it's rather old at this point. And I just say that because this game gets updated, the experimental version. It's updated like 4 or 5 times a day. I'll show you that in a second. So the stable version, of course, means it's not going to crash or anything. This one's been tested quite a bit. It's stable, it's good to go. No bugs or things. For the most part, maybe there's something hidden somewhere, but you shouldn't run into it. The experimental version, in my experience, is just kind of hit and miss. Sometimes it's completely stable and good to go. Other times it crashes every 5 minutes. Other times it just throws up a debug message or two. So it's just up to you. We're going to do the experimental because things have changed dramatically between the stable version and experimental version at this point. And probably the next stable version might be out sometime soon. I don't know specifically, but I'm guessing it probably will be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the experimental Windows console build. So here you can see all the recent versions of it. You can see, well, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 updates today. 1 update yesterday, 3 updates the day before. Yeah, they update this game a lot. I'm not sure if there's a change list anywhere, but sometimes you'll just notice things in game are different between each build. So we'll go ahead and grab the most modern one. 2369. Yeah, the bottom one is the most up-to-date one, by the way. Downloaded. Going to assume you guys know how to unzip things, but see what I'm doing here. This is my other build of it. Here we go. Cut this. Put it somewhere a little bit more reasonable. This folder already has my other game on it, so I'm going to put it in this one instead. Doesn't really matter where you put it. Don't even have to move it from the downloads folder, just as long as you don't delete your downloads folders for some reason. Here we go, we have it. Now we're going to want to make a shortcut on the desktop for this. Sometimes games don't need a desktop shortcut. I usually don't use them, but this game, you have to do some pre-setup stuff with the options and stuff, so you need quick access to it pretty easy. And I'm also going to leave this open because we're going to be coming back to this in a moment. First, let's run Cataclysm here. Right, so here's the start screen. You can see it's a very small window right now. That's why I'm recording the entire desktop. The game doesn't start full screen, so you go to options here. Oh, I guess I should go over this. There's not very many things that are mouse interactable with this game. I think they're planning on starting to introduce stuff like that. Right now, you have to use the arrow keys for this screen. I don't think you can also use the number pad if you want. and you press enter to select the thing that's highlighted. So the first thing I'm going to do before I mess with anything else is I'm just going to go to interface. So it might be graphics. It's graphics. So graphics is where you can change the terminal height and stuff. There might be a full screen option in this one. Might be just the graphical version that has the full screen option. I'm just going to go in here and arrow down to the terminal width and height. Now these used to just be, well, they still are, just numbers that are kind of unclear what it means. They've added in this thing now to tell you how big the pixels will be. So just find out what resolution your screen is. So if I go to personalize, display, just resolution, my display settings, you can see here, this is where also where yours will be. The recommended one is what your screen is meant for. It's 1920 by 1080. 1080 is the up-down and 920 is the left-right, so known as 1080p. What I like to do, terminal width, this one's the one that's wider. The width one, see, I can't quite get it to 10, or wait, it's 1920, that's right. Okay, there's 1920. However, since it's not like in full screen, it'll be cut over by this little toolbar here if I do it at this size. Or no, that's height. Width, though, you know, you might have some bleed off on the sides of the screens. In my particular case, I have 2 monitors set up, so it's kind of bad if it bleeds off the screen. So I'm just gonna move it down to 1912 instead. Then over in terminal height, pretty similar thing, except it's not quite as high. So our screen is 1080 tall, and I actually don't even have that option for some reason. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it down all the way to 108 pixels. That's because I'm making room for this toolbar, and also the top of this Cataclysm DDA window will also take up some of that space. So that's where I'm going to bring that. As for anything else, I don't think I'm going to change it quite just yet, because I'm going to restart the game so that we can see the changes. So we can just press escape here and shift Y to say yes to that message. Go over to quit. Relaunch the game. Now you can see it's full-ish screen. Good enough for me. Like I said, if you have the tileset version, you can make it bigger. Or you can make it actually go into full screen. So now let's look at the options again. So general, there's these auto pickup options. This is just telling the game, do you want certain items to be picked up as you walk over them without having to do an action to do it. And in my opinion, you don't really want to deal with this. I just like to know kind of what's in my inventory, so I like to grab everything manually. Dangerous pickups. Left false will cause the player to drop items that cause them to exceed the weight limit, so it'll make it so you have to drop stuff if you have too much weight. Again, I just leave this one false. I just deal with it myself. And then these are safe mode settings. And I do like to turn this one to true. That means safe mode will be on by the start of the game. And the other thing I like to change here is the safe mode proximity distance. 0, I think, just means as soon as you see something, going to total safe mode. What the safe mode does is make it so if you see a monster, you freeze. The game freezes up, or pauses, I should say, and you can't move or anything until you tell it, yes, I noticed that there's a monster. But this can be kind of annoying. So what I like to do is I change this to 15 distance. That represents like 15 squares on the map. That's a pretty decent distance. This means it won't bother you as soon as you see something. It'll just bother you if something kind of gets close to you. Periodically autosave. You can turn this on if you want. Saving does take some time in this game, so I usually just leave it off. It is a roguelike, so technically if you don't want to mess with save scumming, just want to leave those off anyway. Circular distances. So this game's all square based, it's not like a hex grid or something. So circular distances make it so Diagonals count as 2 distance instead of 1 distance. I like to turn this on just because it looks prettier. I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea or not, but I like it. It makes circles. Circles are pretty. Dropped empty containers. Again, this is just like auto drop if a container gets empty. I like to know what I have, so I don't not to do that. Otto Notes. This one could be useful if you want. This one just marks it on your map automatically if you have stairs that go up or down in a building. Which can be helpful. Sometimes you just want to drop your own note down. Some basements just don't have anything, so it's not necessarily useful, but sometimes you'll find basements full of stuff. You won't be able to take it all home, and then you'll want to know where it's at. So you can either have this on just so it does it itself, or you can just make your own notes. Now I'll leave that one up to you. I'm just going to leave it off for me. And this is interface options. This will let you change the language and temperature and stuff. I'm just going to leave most of this the same. Of course, yes, no prompts. This is one I like to change, though. Ask to save before sleeping. I feel like sleeping is a good point for it to actually save the game, like regardless of how roguelike you're trying to be. Just because the game can crash when you're sleeping. It simulates a lot of time and stuff, so I like to have it save, regardless of what my intentions are with the game. Some of this stuff you just don't really need to worry about all that much. Sidebar style. There's a sidebar in the game, which shows you like some of your stats and what you see going on around you and stuff. And there's something to be said for both of them. When you have a really big screen like I do, an 80p screen, the wider is kind of nice because you kind of fit more things in here. But I don't think they quite have this optimized as much as they could have, because when you have it on wider, it leaves like the bottom half of it blank, and it saves it for when you mouse over an item, the item information will appear there. But most of the time, there's just a big, huge empty block here. So yeah, I'm starting to think that maybe just leaving out narrow is better. Unless they start changing that. And I don't think we need to worry about the rest of this stuff. Graphics. So recently they added kind of animation-y type stuff. Like when you hit stuff and damage meters and stuff will appear this time. Used to not do that. I just don't mess with those because I don't want anything to break. We talked about these just a moment ago. So yeah, not much to worry about here now. Debug. Okay, so this is where you have to decide how hard you want this game to be. I'm going to tell you now, Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, probably the hardest game in existence. Now, I know there are troll games and stuff. I'm kind of leaving those out of that equation. This isn't a troll game where things will just don't make sense or are just unfair. This game is just desperately, desperately hard. Think of the hardest roguelike you can, times it by like 10. And then you kind of have an idea. I still can't really play this game on its base settings. Right now, I might just leave them for the same for now, because I might just show you how hard the game actually is on these base settings. But just know when we get into more of the actual tutorial instead of like just what the game looks like at its base, I'm going to change these to something I feel is a little bit more manageable. I'll make recommendations on what you should change here. World defaults. This will also appear once you make a new game now. You used to not do that, but now you can also change it when you make a new game, or you can change it now. Delete world. If a character dies, do you want to delete the world or not immediately after? So the map world is like persistent if you want. You can keep making characters in the same world. Maybe you can find your old body and stuff. It was kind of interesting. In my opinion, though, I kind of don't like that. I kind of like to start fresh every time. That's just how I play. You might want to leave it on no. I think I'm just going to put it on yes. Size of cities, pretty self-explanatory. Make the number bigger. If cities are bigger, make it smaller. Cities are smaller. 4 is pretty fair. I'd bring it up to most at 6. It's like 6. By that point, they're already like huge cities, so you don't really want to go more than that. And like it says up here, and make the slower map gen. Probably could crash it too if you make it a little bit too big. Spawn rate scaling factor. This is how often enemies spawn. 1 just means it spawns them at the normal rate, which is extremely high, by the way. because this game is very, very hard. Spawn rate, same thing. How often items and stuff spawn. 1 is pretty fair on that thing. I never changed that really. Region, this is kind of a work in progress feature. Yeah, it says up there work in progress, so just don't mess with it right now. It's not even available in the stable version, I don't think. That's just for the experimental version. Initial time, this is how early the game starts. I think it roughly translates to 8 o'clock. Initial season, spring. Just starts you in spring, and you can change it to summer and stuff if you want. Season length, how long does a season last? How many days does it last before the next season starts? You can see the year's pretty quick in this game, but you have to simulate game time somewhat faster than real life, even though this game tries to be very realistic about those kinds of things. But in this case, it does squeeze time together. The main thing to note here, and it doesn't really tell you this anywhere, or maybe it does now. Options other than default. Yeah, it does say it now. It used to not say it, but it says that food decay and monster spawns will have advanced. So I didn't know this once, and I made a game where I started in winter, and it simulates all the time from spring to winter before your character gets in. So food is all rotten and stuff if you start playing in winter. And if you die, it'll say you survived an extremely long amount of days. It's kind of weird. I don't know why they don't make it different that way, but that's how it is. Okay, these settings change how monsters spawn. Static spawn means everything spawns at the start of the game. And then so if you kill things, they're gone for good. Wander spawns means there's wandering zombie hordes that can spawn on the map. The thing is, this is entirely random. They'll just spawn anywhere. They can spawn right on top of you. So they might be changing this later to have some more stay this far away from the character spawn or something. But right now, I just avoid this because otherwise something can just spawn right on top of you. Classic zombies makes it so the game doesn't spawn really weird things. So, in Left 4 Dead, you have the basic zombies, but then you also have the spitters and smokers and stuff. This game also has those kinds of zombies. So if you turn those off, it'll just be the basic zombies. There won't be any special zombies. I think this will also turn off the extreme monsters in the game, because this game has demons and robots and stuff. It might turn those off. I'm not entirely certain. Okay, so here's one of the difficulty decisions you can make. One that I would make. If you leave the spawn rate scaling factor at 1, you might want to turn classic zombies on, because then there'll be a lot of pretty easy zombies. Spawn rate of 1 and not classic zombies is the default setting for the game. That makes it extremely hard. What I like to do, maybe bring the scale rate factor down to 0.5, so half, and leave the classic zombies off, and then you can kind of experience everything in the game, but not so much of it that you die instantly. But now I'm just going to leave these at basic settings for now. Change the difficulty stuff later. NPCs, these guys are still kind of a work in progress. Random ones is kind of like the wander spawns. They will spawn anywhere and they can spawn right on top of you. Some of them can be aggressive and they'll just shoot you in the face and game over. So it's usually a good idea to just leave them off until they improve the AI in some sort of way. Static NPC though, this one's a little bit more fine if you want to turn this one on. This one just spawns a dude in the shelter that you spawn in. And he's always friendly, or it could also be a she, I suppose. They're always friendly. They usually have a gun. If you just want somewhere safe to run to, you might want to turn him on so that if you get attacked by something big really early on, you can run and have him kill it. Mutations by radiations. There's radiation in this game and it can mutate you. It's toggling it on or off. Mutations are pretty fun, so I just leave them on. Because they can do good things too, not just bad things. Alright, so escape and say yes. I don't even remember exactly all we changed. So, in the next video, since this was mostly setup... Oh, no, there's more setup to do. Hold on. So, the base game... Actually, I'm just going to load a character really quick. We're just going to do a random character now. And we're also just going to skip these world gen features. We'll talk about those in the next video. I just want to show you what the game actually looks like once you get in. Apparently have some kind of melee style. So, on. So let me go. Yes. So this is what the game actually looks like. So now the thing we're going to talk about changing is the font style, because this font style is pretty nice, but you'll notice that the length of a thing is quite a bit longer than the width of a thing. And most of the time this is fine. You'll notice though, like this road here is significantly smaller than this road here. And it's not just because it's a smaller road. They're probably the same size road, and it's just this one has more width because of where it's going as opposed to this one. But the thing you'll notice like the most is with cars, because cars, you can change which direction they're going. They'll be really long if they're going vertically, really squished if they're going horizontally. So it's kind of ugly. So what I like to do is I like to change the game to a square font. So we're going to show you how to do that now. Let's just commit suicide with this character. Really commit suicide? Yes. Sure. Alright. So we have to go out of the options and stuff to do this. You want to download a font called, well, there's a few different fonts you can pick, but one I use is called Q2 Curses Square. See, I've already looked it up before, so it's alright there. So look up Q2 Curses Square. 16 by 16 here. And you can download it. Go to the folder it's in. Extract it. Now you have to remember to do this step. Double click on it and click install. I'm not going to click it because it's already installed, but click install to make sure it installs to the computer. Once you do that, Cataclysm here. Go to, I think it's in data. Yeah, font data. Go to this file here and open it up in Notepad or whatever thing. You see I have Notepad++ or just Notepad. I'll just open it with Notepad this time, just because it's probably what most of you guys have. So since it's a square font, you want these numbers to all be the same. So I'm going to bump this one up to 16. This will also make the font bigger and easier to see to some degree. 16, 16, 16. And typeface, we're going to change this from Terminus to Q2 versus square 16 by 16. You guys won't have to memorize this. I'll probably copy paste it into the description below. Speaking of copy paste, I'm just going to copy paste. It is here. Paste onto the other Terminus thing. Save it. Now the game is in this other font. So, oops, that's not the game. That was the icon for the game. Okay, so now you might notice that some of these words look a little bit different. Actually, text kind of looks the same. Might just be on the main menu, so let's make a new character again. It might not have worked, to be honest. I'll show you how to fix it if this didn't work how it's supposed to. I think it worked. Nope, it didn't work. Hold on. I think what the thing is, once you make a game, usually I just change that first before I even play at all. But if you have already started a game and stuff, it'll like save the text settings and stuff. So we also need to go to the config folder here, fonts, and do the same thing here. Well, this is the other Notepad program, but it'll look like the other Notepad did here. We just got to do the same thing here. Again, if you didn't make any game yet, yeah, just changing that font data should have done it. I just kind of forgot that you already make a game, it saves that to another folder. Now let's try again. Okay, now it's in the full width, or the full thing. But you can also see that it changed the size of the window here. So we'll have to go to options again. Again, you might want to change the font first before you do anything else. As you can see now, it says that 239 number down here equals 380 or 3,827 pixels for 24 pixels. Sorry, we have to bring that way down. I changed the font first. I should have done that first. I wasn't really thinking. Oh, wait a minute. Just go in a circle. Oh, it's yeah. Width is 1,900-ish for us, so 1904 again. The height stayed the same. It was just the width because we're using a square font now. Okay, let's back out. So see, now it's fine. If you had just done the font thing first, it would look like this. So now, if we make a new game, random character. Didn't get any weird things that time. And you can see the fonts, for one thing, it's bigger. It's easier to see with this kind of resolution size. If your monitor resolution is smaller, then it won't quite be as big of an issue for you. But most of us probably have 1080p monitors, so the base font is a little bit small. Now it's bigger, and it's square. And we can't really see it too much here. You'll notice that at least the building is square now. Before it was rectangular. If we go outside, though, and explore a bit, apparently we're deaf, too, which is interesting. So it's a random trait we have. Let's go over to this road connection over here. Now it looks like, yeah, it's pretty much the same size now. So yeah, the square font's a lot nicer. It looks a lot prettier, and yeah, I think it's a great idea to do. And if it really doesn't bother you, if things get squished and stretched and stuff when you're driving a car, then you don't really have to worry about it. Otherwise, I think this is a great thing to do, and you should do it. But that will do it for this tutorial video, and in the next one we'll start getting into making a character and possibly getting into the gameplay some. So I might separate those into different videos. Till then, I hope you all enjoyed, and have a good day.